Let's bring in our election night power panel. Fox News contributor Steve Hilton, political analyst and class action attorney Kelly Hyman, and former White House Deputy Strategic Communications Director Roma Duravi. I want to start with Steve again. Vivek Ramaswamy there saying, yeah, I'll do whatever's best for the team. That means, yes, if I'm asked, you're darn right I'm going to be the vice president.
Yeah.
So, right?
Look, I'm incredibly fond of Vivek. He's fantastic. And I've got to say, honestly, one of the most positive and exciting and fresh things about the whole of the last few weeks is the way that Vivek, exited the race, backed Trump. He's now there with Trump. He's feeding him ideas. He's a really, really exciting example of the future of the Republican Party. So Nikki Haley talks about youth and the future. Vivek is that, and he's with Trump. Yeah. So I think that's a very, very important indicator. One other thing I'd say about who's with Trump, Tim Scott. Like, she's going on about South Carolina, her home state, my sweet state of South Carolina. Right. It's also Tim Scott's state. He's beloved in South Carolina. He still represents South Carolina. She doesn't anymore. Yeah. She's left to be on the board of Boeing. He's in South Carolina, represents South Carolina. He's with Trump.
Yeah, and you and I were both talking about this, Steve. We said, Nikki Haley was up there and she was giving her speech, and she said a couple of months, 2 months, a few times. Yes. Like she's going to stay in for 2 more months, at least 2 more months, and you've heard that it might be longer than that. Yeah. And the question is, that is a long 2 months. North Carolina or South Carolina is 31 days away. Yeah. It's a long time. And you talked about this because when Ron DeSantis, a week ago after Iowa, Ron DeSantis came out, he was a bullion. He was like, we are going all the way. Yeah. We came in number 2. Drops out.
We punched our ticket. It wasn't valid for very long. Right. He was out. So the same kind of bravado, but there's a big difference. No one was encouraging Ron DeSantis to stay in the race. Like the universal consensus was, this is over for him. Yeah. However, with Nikki Haley, there's a lot of voices, many voices, encouraging her to stay in. Just tonight, for you and our audience, Trace, I read tomorrow morning's Wall Street Journal editorial, long editorial about this race. They are encouraging Nikki Haley to stay in and to take the fight to Donald Trump, not just for 2 months. Right. They're saying she should stay until July. Wow. And the argument is, what if something happens with these trials and so on? Then, she's there as a backup for the convention. But the argument in response to that is, why does anyone think that anything that would happen in these trials would derail Trump when actually so far that entire process, as our Fox voter analysis showed tonight, overwhelmingly is seen by Republican voters who vote in these primaries as politically biased against him, run by the Democrats, and it actually helps him. So I don't see the case for her staying until July. Yeah. We're
going to talk to our legal expert, Vic Bajaj, about that coming up. But it's a good point, Roman Duravi, because, when Steve says July, people think July. There's not a state. Somebody said earlier, listen, there's no path to win. There's not a single state that she can say, I'm going to do really well here, and it's going to be close, because right now it's not. And you think July's an awfully long time to be 20, 30 points behind.
Yeah, you might think we're in March because January has been such a long month already, but we are not there yet, and it will be a very long time for her to stay in this race and get to that point. I don't see that happening. The math is not mathing when it comes to Nikki Haley getting to that finish line. And what I will point out to the viewers is that if you drown out the noise and you pay attention to what she is saying and what the rest of the candidates said before they dropped out as well, is they were all running on President Trump's winning policies. He has a proven track record of promises made, promises kept. He had a strong economy. He secured the border. He had 0 wars, 0 fights breaking out overseas the way that Joe Biden has a new one popping up every single day. And so I think the American people are really smart, and they've been paying attention to this primary very closely. And so you will see that in the end, they'll follow that policy into the voting booth.
I wonder, Roma, if you also think that it's true that Nikki Haley has a lot of people in her ear saying, hey, you're doing great. You have a chance. You are, if something happens to the former president, you're it. Does she have that contingent that's kind of saying, we got to keep moving forward?
She's got a lot of different advisors in her ear. It's clear that the talking points have kind of got off the rails lately. I spoke earlier about the position of lies that she's decided to lean into. But it's really not going to stick when it comes to getting people to say, I will choose you over President Trump. At the end of the day, this is a fight between President Trump and Joe Biden. And as you said earlier, you know, these legal battles for President Trump have really only helped him. They've really emboldened the American people to take a step out and say this isn't right, what they're doing to him. And if you remember, they've been doing it for the last 7 years. It was Russia, 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 collusion, collusion, collusion. This is old news, and he knows how to fight back. It's definitely not going to bring him down, and I think we'll see him over the finish line standing there tall very soon.
She's right, Kelly Hyman, because the Biden-Harris campaign released a statement tonight, does not acknowledge the write-in win that Biden had. It says, quoting here, tonight's results confirm Donald Trump has all but locked up the GOP nomination, and the election-denying anti-freedom MAGA movement has completed its takeover of the Republican Party. While we work toward November 2024, one thing is increasingly clear today. Donald Trump is headed straight into a general election matchup where he'll face the only person to have ever beaten him at the ballot box, Joe Biden. They are prepping for Joe Biden. I mean, they are prepping for Donald Trump. The whole thing, the whole machinery is moving toward Donald Trump. Donald Trump still kind of dealing with somebody in the shadows, Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley is in it to win it. She says, you know, she's just getting started and wants to keep on fighting and keep on going and keep moving forward. And so for her, it's not done deal yet. So.
Yeah, it's not done deal. But when you have, listen, the whole thing is there's no pathway to get there. And I wonder if a lot of Republicans are thinking, you know what? We really need to consolidate here because we could have a battle, and if she goes to July, that leaves August, September, October, November. That leaves 4 months to really focus on Joe Biden.
That's a really interesting point that you bring up as well. And maybe things will change. Maybe after South Carolina, she says, you know, that's it, I'm done. But I found it really interesting that in her speech that she also went after Trump about his mental capacity, which I thought was interesting because she's never done something like that before.
Yeah, she really did, Stephen. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, it was ridiculous because, as I said earlier, like it shows that this is someone who either is just, it's gone to her head, all the adulation and fluffing she's got from the media the last few days, and she's just spouting off. But if she actually wants to win, then attacking Donald Trump is the last thing that she should do. She needs to win over Trump voters who love Donald Trump. So it doesn't make any sense. Of course, she's being advised to do that. But here's the thing. Let's just engage for a moment with the actual argument. Take it seriously. The argument that is put by those who are pushing Nikki Haley. They're saying, look at her tonight. She did very well with independents. No one's arguing with that. And you have to have independents to win the general election. That's all true. But here's the other thing. If you have Nikki Haley as the candidate, you can be sure that a big chunk of Republican voters who cannot stand Nikki Haley will either stay home or vote for RFK or someone else. So to all that she may add in terms of independence, she would also lose a lot among the core Republican vote.
I think it's also worth putting this on the screen then to Steve's point here, Roma, because the voter analysis says vote for Trump if he wins the nomination, yes or no. Yes, 67%, no, 32%. He needs a bigger coalition. He needs more allies to jump into that 67% to really go forward and be a strong force against Joe Biden. Fair?
Yeah, his poll numbers are only going up. Like I said earlier, you know, once Nikki Haley does drop out of this race, I wouldn't be surprised if you see a whole slew of her followers, you know, lead themselves over to President Trump. And, you know, this is definitely going to be a very interesting race. We've never seen this before in American history, so everybody is paying very close attention to it. But if I could just give a little bit of free advice to the Democrats, I would spend a little less time on Nikki Haley and a little more time on Joe Biden, because just today, at his big first campaign stop in Virginia, he was heckled 14 times during his speech from people who are not happy with his foreign policy decisions. So his own party, his own supporters are not happy with him, and I think they should stop distracting themselves playing politics in the Republican side of things and maybe focus on their own issues.
I got to go, Kelly, but what are you looking for the next few months in this campaign?
I'm looking to see what Nikki Haley does, if she's going to drop out, if she's going to continue moving forward. Is she going to get past Super Tuesday, or is that going to be it? I think that's going to be key.
Yeah, Super Tuesday, March 5th, long time away. Kelly, Roma, Steve, thank you.